Hey, what's going on, everybody? Myles Youngblood here, back again at the Beyond Ordinary podcast, where we connect with great people to do great things in order to inspire you to do the same. Got another banger episode today. We talking about philosophy. We're talking about Stoicism today. That's something that I've been really trying to get into. I think it's a really dope philosophy, and I brought on none other than Phil, and I don't want to butcher your last name, Phil
Van Treuren.
Van Treuren. Phil Van
Yeah,
Treuren,
it took
man.
took me a long time to learn how to pronounce it and spell it too. Don't worry.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, Phil. So we're going to just get into Stoicism. You know what I'm saying? Some of the things we're going to highlight, some of what Stoicism is, the benefits, and how you guys could start on your Stoic journey to improve your life. But before we get started, man, Phil, can you tell the people who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Phil Van Treuren. I am an author. I'm an entrepreneur. I have worked in digital marketing for many years. I've worked in creative writing for a long time. I do a lot of e-commerce stuff, and Stoicism is basically a hobby, but one that I've also used to better myself, and I hope to better other people too. I've written 4 books that I've published now. You can find them all on Amazon or on my website, stoicsimple.com. And I'm excited to talk with you today.
For sure, man. For sure. So let's dive right in. So Phil actually sent me one of his books about different Stoic quotes. So we're gonna get to that. But one thing that in the book you were trying to figure out a definition for Stoicism, and what you came up with is Stoicism is focusing on things that are in your control, overcoming negative emotions, living in the present moment, hoping. I think that's a
Helping others.
typo. Yeah, helping others
Yeah,
for a common goal and finding opportunity in every obstacle.
it is. Yeah.
So, my first question to you is, why did it take you so long to come up with that definition?
Because Stoicism isn't as simple as a philosophy that can be described with a single sentence. There's a lot more to Stoicism. It's a philosophy that first started being developed thousands of years ago. In fact, it started with Socrates a few hundred years before it was codified as its own school of philosophy. And with so many people being interested in Stoicism today, a lot of them want a quick answer just because of the way the internet works today, because of the way social media and attention spans work. A quick answer that lets them know what Stoicism is all about in a short sentence. And I was determined to really boil down Stoicism into a single sentence, if possible. And the way I started that project was by reaching out to some well-known modern Stoic philosophers, writers, uh, influencers, and asking them all if they had to describe Stoicism in a single sentence, what would they say? And I was impressed. A lot of them answered me. I put their answers on my website. And then I undertook my own project of writing my own sentence. And after about a year of reading about Stoic philosophy, working on this one sentence, I finally got it to a point that I thought it was equally accurate and elegant, and it describes Stoicism as well as you can in a single sentence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you have a so this was from your Stoicism book, right? Where I got the definition from. What inspired
Yeah.
you to want to write that book?
Actually, the book itself, most of it was already written from my own notes, and I coupled the notes along with some Stoic quotes that I felt went well with each of the individual sections, and I illustrated it. I do digital illustration. I use Photoshop for all my illustrations. I've been doing digital illustrating for almost 20 years, and this is another good output for me to put that skill to use. But I started learning about Stoic philosophy a few years ago, and I've only been learning about it for a few years. I didn't even know what philosophy was until 2 or 3 years ago, and it really clicked with me right away. And I wanted to learn as much as I could about it. And the best way for me to do that was as I read books by ancient Stoic philosophers and modern writers, I would write my own notes about them. I would write my own thoughts down. I would write certain things that struck me in the pages that I read about Stoicism and my own view on that and how it affects my life. And I utilized those notes to organize most of the little book of Stoic quotes. people who visit my website, most of them are looking for information about Stoic quotes they've heard about. I can see where the search traffic's coming from. So I decided to put that into a form that focuses on individual famous Stoic quotes, but also gives a little bit of exposition on what that means for people's lives, especially in the modern world.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned how you didn't even know what philosophy was, right?
Philosophy? No. I've got to admit, I went to high school and college, but I was interested in what I was interested in, and my education and interest in history and philosophy was, I got to say, woefully inadequate. And I wish I had spent more time learning about history and philosophy, but I'm making up for it now. There's a whole, I mean, there's so much to read about the world, history and philosophy that I didn't realize was even there, and it's opened up a whole new world for me.
Mm-hmm. And so, what would you say is the difference between Stoicism and religion?
That's a great question. So a few thousand years ago, when Stoicism was being codified as a school of philosophy, religion and philosophy sort of went hand in hand. So did science, in fact. Things like religion, philosophy, science, they weren't as separated in the minds of the individuals who were practicing these things. If you read older texts from ancient Stoic philosophers, you'll see them frequently uh, refer to gods like Zeus. In some cases, they're referring to Zeus or the universe, or the all-encompassing power, that kind of thing. But at its core, Stoicism, when separated uh, from religion, or from ancient religion, is basically just logical thinking, and it was a precursor to one of the most effective and popular kinds of therapy today, which is called cognitive behavioral therapy, which makes us look at our own opinions of our thoughts, look at our own internal monologue, and what we're saying about the world around us, how we're viewing it, what frame we're viewing it through, and question what our own views are of the reality we live in. And these ancient Stoic philosophers, they were actually the first, sort of the world's first psychologists. They studied the human brain. They looked at the kind of thoughts, methods that made people happiest, the kind of thinking that could make us most fulfilled with life, find the most happiness in life, and they experimented with those, and they applied them to themselves, and they shared those thoughts with other people. And Stoicism has evolved over time, and ancient practitioners and even modern practitioners say the same thing. It should evolve over time. It's not something that is set in stone. And as we learn more about the human condition and about the human mind, Stoic philosophy and modern cognitive behavioral therapy is updated too. I don't want to get too, big brained on this. It really isn't. It's a pretty simple philosophy when you come right down to it. But Stoicism and religion they're pretty separate from each other. You can have any religion you want, or no religion at all, and still apply all the methods for Stoic thinking to make your life a lot more happy and productive. I hope that answers your question. Long answer, but I hope it answers it.
Yeah, for sure. And then, what has been the biggest change in your life since practicing Stoicism?
There are a lot. I guess if I had to tell you the few that have changes that have affected me most, the realizations that I've had that have had the biggest effect on my life, um, realizing that I don't have to have an opinion on everything. Our world nowadays constantly wants us, well, whose side are you on? What do you think about this guy or that girl? What political candidate are you voting for? What tribe are you in? How do you identify with this group or that group? And I used to think I had to have an opinion on everything. And Stoicism teaches you don't have to have an opinion on everything around you, that the world and things in the world are not asking you for your opinion, and deciding you're going to have an opinion on something in most cases will just make you upset before you've really learned what something's all about. So that was important in my life. And another thing that's been important is just a comfort with knowing that the world's going to continue without me someday, and that I'm making my impact right now in the small way that I was meant to make my impact, and that I need to be comfortable with and embrace the fact that most of the world, most of the things that happen in the world, most of the things that people do, I have zero control over. And when you embrace that fact, you're able to focus on what you do have control over. And that's basically, you basically have 100% control over three things. And that's your attitude, your judgments, and your responses, how you respond to the world and the things that happen in it. And once you realize that, once you truly take it to heart, you are able to control your own happiness a lot more effectively.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said there about not always having to have an opinion on something. I think we just
Yeah,
live in a world where everybody just wants to have an opinion on something. And
yeah,
it just makes, especially with the internet and, social media, I have a podcast, like anybody could have a platform as long as they have an iPhone, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And casting their opinions out there. But I mean, it's not always necessary.
It's not, and we're sort of more and more funneled into this by the people around us and social media, into this idea that we have to have a strong opinion on everything in the world, and make sure that we broadcast that opinion, make that opinion known, and anybody who disagrees with us just isn't on our side or isn't as educated as we are. And that's the opposite way to happiness. It really is. Being
Mhm.
okay with not knowing everything, being okay with uh, appreciating that most of the world is stuff that we cannot influence, that we have no control over. It leads to a lot more happiness. Now, I don't mean that we should take any kind of a pacifist role in everything. Stoics, in fact, ancient Stoics were very adamant about you should be involved in your community, and work to promote what's right, what you know is right. But on the other hand, they also taught that we are we are citizens of the world, that we need to understand that other people don't have all the answers, and the people who disagree with us or who upset us, in most cases they don't realize that they're doing wrong. People always think they're doing what they need to do.
Mm.
So it's also given me more patience at the same time too. Uh, as we get more educated about some topics, it can sometimes make us a little bit more arrogant and dismissive of people who we think don't know as much as we do. One thing that learning more about Stoic philosophy has taught me is that I need to appreciate my fellow human beings and understand they're on the same journey, that they're trying as hard as they can, just like I am,
Mhm.
and that we're all learning how to do the right thing. We don't have the answers. We're learning as we go along, and it's not really a learning journey that ever ends. But it's made me a lot more patient with other people who have different opinions, and try to teach them to learn some of the tactics I have from Stoicism.
Mhm. So you actually touched on something that I was gonna touch on later in the episode, but since you brought it up, you were talking about how people, don't know that they're doing wrong, and in your book, there's a quote that says, "No one does wrong willingly." Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, that's a quote from Socrates. Socrates was around a few hundred years before Stoicism became its own separate school of thought as philosophy. Socrates was considered the father of all philosophy. He lived in ancient Greece, in Athens. And one of his most famous quotes, if you call it a quote, he didn't, as far as I know, Socrates didn't write anything down himself. Most of what we know about him was written by other people. But he believed that, not that no one does wrong, but everybody does what they think they should be doing. That they aren't thinking themselves, you know what, I'm going to go out today and I'm going to do wrong in the world. Everyone who does what they're doing, even if to us it's pretty obviously the wrong thing, or it's to us a bad thing, they think they need to be doing that for some reason. They think that they need to be treating people that way because it's the only way they know to make themselves comfortable, because they don't know any other way of doing things, because they take pleasure in controlling people. Whatever it is, they feel like they need to be doing it. And Socrates' point was that it helps if, as you look at people who you disagree with, or even people who wrong you, or even people who harm you, and this is a tough position to take when someone is doing you wrong, but it helps to realize that they're doing what they think they need to do, and they're not necessarily doing wrong willingly. Now, I'm not saying that we need to stop and let people take advantage of us, of course not. But facing facing challenges with a calm demeanor, even if you're facing someone who's trying to do you wrong, is beneficial regardless of what's happening. And understanding that no one thinks they do wrong willingly is it's an important part of I think having more, not just inner peace and that kind of feel good stuff, but also being successful in life, understanding how the human mind operates. It's a, it's a simple, I mean, it's a simple concept, but it's one that's it's tough to keep in mind when you're interacting with people who you don't understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that reframe of uh no one does wrong willingly and transitioning to they're doing what they believe to be what they believe to be right at that time.
Exactly.
So like I literally had a friend literally call me either yesterday or the day before. He had an electric scooter riding around the city, and basically someone stole the scooter. He saw them down the street, ran up to them, caught up to them, and he was saying that he was able to they eventually came to some agreement. He got his scooter back, but he said one thing that he noticed while he was talking to the people is that they kept repeating saying, "Oh, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I'm a good person." So, and which is kind of crazy to like from his perspective and my perspective, that someone steals your scooter and then turns around and says that they're a good person, but that's how they get by. You know what I mean? They go around, steal scooters in the city, flip them, sell them, whatever. And obviously, I don't know what that person has going on. My friend didn't know what he has going on, and so he could be doing this out of circumstance. Maybe he's a convicted felon and he can't get a job, but he has a kid at home and he needs to provide, and that's the only way he knows how to get money. You know what I mean? So he's just doing what he needs to do to get by. So having that reframe of, instead of it being this person wronged me, this person is just doing what they believe to be right with the information that they have at the time.
That that's exactly right. And you said the person who stole your friend's scooter, what was it that he said? How did he justify it? How did he justify that he wasn't doing wrong?
Um, I don't even think he gave like a reason as to I'm stealing your scooter because of X, Y, and Z. But what my friend said is that while they were talking, and they were like, he was telling them, "Hey, I need my scooter because that's how I get around." Da da da. But like the guy that stole his scooter kept repeating to him that, "Hey, I am a good person," and so
Yeah.
so
That's a great example, man. I even people who steal from us, they don't look at themselves as bad people. They look at themselves as someone who needs to be doing that for some reason. That's not to say that we shouldn't have laws that people should skate if they steal from other people or hurt them, but it helps to understand that nobody thinks that they are that they're an extra on stage. They think they're the star of the play. Everybody thinks that they're the star who's standing on the stage and who the play is all about, and we can't see their point of view. It's that's a great point.
exactly, exactly. And I have another quote here from, this says Zeno
Zeno
six.
Obsidian, Zeno
Yeah,
Obsidian.
Zeno
Don't worry
Obsidian.
about not pronouncing any of these names or ancient Greek and Roman words
Yeah, that's
incorrectly. I,
tough.
I guarantee you, man, there are still some that I pronounce incorrectly, but I just embrace pronouncing them incorrectly. If I'm saying it wrong, that's fine. I'll be corrected and I'll say it right. But some of these you're not going to know, so don't
Oh
feel bad.
yeah, for sure. I've been practicing before, still not getting it right. But it says that the greatest power that we have as human beings is our ability to choose how we respond to stuff we can't change. And so I want
hmm
to ask you, why is that our greatest strength or our greatest power?
Well, it's our greatest power because the things that we have no power to change in the first place in the world, um, we can turn those into advantages for us if we realize that our frame of mind is entirely in our power. And the things we can't change, we can approach them with an attitude that we are going to better ourselves from them. Again, I don't want this to sound too touchy feely. This isn't a kind of there's a movement out there, and I don't know what it's called, but I know it's all about how as long as you think positively, you're going to change the world around you and you're going to make good things happen, or you're going to make money come to you. That's sort of the opposite of Stoicism. What Stoicism teaches is that we should accept the way the world is, the things that we can't change, and rather than wishing that the world were different, rather than focusing on here's how I wish the world were, instead, if we focus on our own attitude towards those circumstances, if we focus on our own responses to them, that we can make ourselves much, much better, more successful, and happier. I'll give you an example. If something happens in the world like a pandemic or a certain political movement that we really don't have a whole lot of power over changing, one of the ways that we can make ourselves stronger is by deciding that we are going to respond to it in a certain way that's in our power, by by making sure that we have a good attitude about what we're doing when we go out in the world every day, by making sure that we try to change the world in ways that we have the power to do, and not expect that the entire world's just going to change because we want the entire world to change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense for sure. And then, how can someone remain stoic during a time of grief, especially when they lose a loved one?
Yeah, it's tough, and I'm not going to tell you that reading about Stoicism is going to make learning leaving losing a loved one any easier than it is. It's not something that you can just say, "Hey, here's a quote from Stoicism that's going to make you feel any better." I've lost loved ones. It doesn't work that way. No matter how logical or powerful a philosophy is, it doesn't just wipe away the pain of losing a loved one. And ancient Stoics didn't teach that we shouldn't necessarily feel any grief at all. That's a human emotion. It's something that's going to affect everybody. One way that Stoicism has helped me a little bit when I have subsequently lost close friends or loved ones is it allows me to look at the bigger picture and think to myself, how would if it were me who were gone, how would I want them to think about me? Would I want them to only have sadness or grief when they think of my memory? Or would I want my memory to inspire them to be happy and to think about the good parts of my life that I shared with them? By looking at it in that frame, it helps. It doesn't make the pain go away. The only thing that makes pain go away in that way is time, I think. But it does help a little bit.
Hmm. Yep. That reframe is really everything. And that's been a kind of a common theme of our conversation is like a lot of things that can
Yeah,
just be reframed to maybe not
exactly.
necessarily take the pain away, but to just train your mind to think differently, not always harp on the negative side or the negative emotions and think more positively.
Yeah, and there's a way to find opportunity in almost every obstacle, even things that are the most painful in life. I'm not saying we can be happy if we're put in prison or if we lose loved ones, but there's at least something from every challenging or painful experience that we can use to Stoics say practice a virtue. That means improve ourselves, make ourselves more durable, practice endurance, practice acceptance of things we can't change, decide to better ourselves, learn how to overcome our own disabilities or the things that hold us back in the world. There's some kind of opportunity in every single obstacle, even if it's a small opportunity.
Absolutely. And then can you share a personal story or experience that illustrates how stoicism helped you in a particular situation?
Yeah, I there are a lot that I could share, but one of the ways that it has helped me when it comes to my own situation in life, my family, our financial situation, how many vacations we can take, that kind of thing. I have three small kids, and I'm very lucky to have them. But my wife and I haven't been able to take as many vacations as we would have liked, and we'd like to go travel and see the world someday. We still will, but one of the ways that Stoicism has helped me a lot is realizing that I don't necessarily have to see every single exotic place in the world to be happy. That there's just as much, um, there's just as much amazement right here in my own surroundings, regardless of where I am. I mean, the grass and the trees and the rocks right in my backyard are made of the same stuff as the grass and the trees and the rocks in, I don't know, you name it. Greece, Greenland, Southern California. It's all made of the same stuff. And it's not the place that makes us happy. It's our attitude about the place that we're in that makes us happy. You can find beauty any place. It might be a little harder to find beauty, you know, uh, in a dark, cold dungeon or something. But the human mind has a lot of capacity to appreciate beauty and find it right where it is.
Absolutely. And how has Stoicism played a role in becoming a seven-figure brand owner?
Well, it's played a big role in that in helping me not be afraid of the future. So as an entrepreneur, I'm also the owner of a couple e-commerce brands, things that I sell online, and I have employees. As a entrepreneur, I honestly used to be scared a lot about the future because being an entrepreneur is it can be very chaotic. There's not a guarantee how sales are going to go one year to the next. You're taking a lot of your own destiny into your own hands, and it doesn't have the same kind of solidity or safety net, yeah, that a traditional job has. And so entrepreneurs, and I know a lot of them, they often are uh, although they tackle problems right away, they still have this constant anxiety about what's going to happen a year from now or 2 years from now. What if the economy changes? What if my product becomes obsolete? What if we lose our organic keyword rankings? Anything that could keep them up at night as a possibility of something that could destroy their business. And those possibilities are always there, but Stoicism's helped me more live in the moment and also just not be afraid about what might happen in the future. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself in his journal, which we call the Meditations today. He wrote, "Don't worry about challenges you'll face in the future. You will face them with the same tools of logic and reason that you faced every challenge with in the past." And that's something I've really embraced, and that's something I've taken to heart. Bad things are going to happen, challenging things are going to happen, but I'll worry about them when they come. I'm not going to make I'm not going to make it doubly bad by worrying about bad things now. I'll worry about them when they come. I'll prepare for them. I will think about what might happen, but not to get upset, not to have anxiety, in order to prepare for how I might face them.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that reframe. Just not, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and sometimes like that, thinking about the future, clients churning, whatever, like things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it happens, or it's going to happen. And so
hmm
just, preparing for it and just understanding that worrying about it isn't going to do anything.
Part of me used to think that kind of fear early on was what made me work so hard to build the business while it was still sort of a concept, and that helped me grow to a point that it's successful now, and I think it has long-term viability for my employees and my family. But looking back, absent of that fear, if I had just focused on my game plan and not worried what might go wrong, the business could be twice as big now. So people who say that having a fear of what might go wrong or having anger actually motivates you to do greater things, I don't buy it. I think that being realistic and looking at every single challenge as an opportunity can make you even more successful if you have that mindset.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's even for the in the long term good to rely on emotions in order to get you through certain things, because our
Yeah,
emotions are so fluid. Because once that emotion is gone, you're gonna have to pull from somewhere else to get you through. And if you don't, then you're just gonna stop, quit, and then, so trying to use, negative emotions or whatever to try and propel you forward is definitely not the way to go. You got to find
that
some other power source.
that's a great point, Miles. You're exactly right. Exactly right. And just to clarify, a lot of people think that Stoicism is uh, focused on getting rid of emotions. It's not at all. It's focused on dealing intelligently, constructively with our emotions. We're never going to get rid of our emotions. We're human beings. There are things that we have instant reactions to, knee-jerk reactions to, instinctual emotions that will come up that we're not going to get rid of. Stoicism teaches that we should step back for a second, look at those initial emotions that we have, and as Epictetus wrote, say, hold on a second, let me look at you and identify you for what you really are. And as we step back, look at our anger, our fear, really look at it and consider, are these even logical? If you have the ability to step back and look at them before you act, it has a powerful influence on your life. I'm never going to get rid of my initial emotions of anger and fear in certain situations, but I have been able to give myself the ability to at least pause, step back a little bit more, and say, "Hold on, this is ridiculous. This way that I'm acting." That's what Stoicism teaches us to do: get rid of the negative emotions, or at least deal with them better.
One thing that I've been doing recently, or I've been thinking to myself, is that emotions slash feelings and actions are two mutually exclusive things. Just because you feel a
Hmm.
type of way doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do something about it. So
Yeah,
sometimes when I'm feeling some sort of negative emotions, I really just sit there and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just sit here and just feel these negative emotions because one, it's not gonna kill me. So nothing's gonna happen. And I don't have to do anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to act. It's not like, oh, because I'm angry, therefore I have to punch a hole in the wall. That's not how that
you could
works.
you've reached a point that few people ever do with that acknowledgement and with that opinion. I It's even hard for me, even after having read about it at length, when I'm really angry, to take a step back and say, this doesn't mean you have to take action. It's really hard for a lot of people to do that. But Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, we have more writing from Seneca than any other Stoic philosopher, and his writing is just, it's beautiful to read. But one of the things he wrote was that the best remedy for anger is delay. And that's basically what you just said. That if you get angry, the best remedy is to not do anything at all, to not take any action, and anger slowly goes away. And that's an example of how Stoicism is applied to even modern behavioral therapy, because that's something the behavioral therapists recommend to their clients, also to their to the people who they're treating. Also, if you get angry, doesn't mean you have to act on it. Just delay. Just put off making a taking an action because your anger is telling you to do that. So you know what you're talking about. You've got a Stoic philosopher's blood running through your veins right now.
I'm trying. I'm trying. Like, yeah, when you said delay, that's literally that. That's exactly what I was thinking because
Yeah.
there's just been so many things I've done that I'm just like, I like where I'll wake up the next day and I'm like, that was stupid, right? And so one thing I've been trying to really implement is that whenever like I either have a lot of negative emotions, anger, or whatever, to try and sleep on it and then wake up the next day and think, okay, what I was going to do in that moment, do I still want to do it now? And most of the time the answer is no.
Yeah.
So, or maybe I do it to a lesser degree. Like, okay, I'm about to send this text message. And then it's like, all right, let me go to sleep, wake up. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna still send the text message, but I'm probably going to half of this stuff, I'm probably gonna reword a different way because I'm not as angry or I'm trying to get a particular outcome. That's one thing me and my friend, we like to talk about whenever I call him or he calls me for advice. One of the very first things that we ask each other is, what is your desired outcome? Because what your desired outcome is going to be is going to determine like the path that you take, you know? So that's something that I've been trying to really incorporate, especially like during times of negative emotion for sure.
Well, I'll tell you something else, and you won't hear this from many people who sell books about Stoic philosophy. But you embody this as well. You're a great example of it, and that is that not everybody will benefit from reading about Stoic philosophy. So let me explain. Stoic philosophy is basically just it's logical thinking at its core, and human beings were made for reason. We're made for logical thinking. Some of us have a harder time thinking logically than others. I'm one of those people. I need to read about Stoic philosophy. I need to take notes about it. I need to rewrite those things in my own words in order to take action and embody those things in my life. There are some people in the world who already think stoically naturally. They're logical thinkers naturally. And there people who naturally think that way already, they'll probably read Stoic philosophy and they'll think to themselves, well, yeah, this is just part of being a grown up. This is how I think already. And if you're one of those people, you might not take much benefit from it. But if you're someone like me who if I don't read about Stoic philosophy, if I don't stop and think about these things constantly, then I notice the effect in my life. I notice the negative effect in my old thinking. It's like exercising. If you don't lift weights regularly, you're not gonna keep the gains, the benefits. And logical thinking's the same way. Some people are natural athletes, and some people are not natural athletes. I'm not a natural athlete either. I would need to train a lot in order to play sports well, or to do athletic things well. But people who are natural athletes, they don't need to train as much as those, or people who are don't need to train as much as those who are not. Same with logical thinking, and I think you embody that well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So for people that are watching who want to embark on a Stoic journey, how long would you say it would take them in order to reap the benefits of Stoicism?
Well, again, if you're a person who needs Stoic philosophy, who needs Stoic to read about Stoic thinking to make your life better, it's something you probably will have to at least glance at and read about periodically for the rest of your life. But within a few months of reading works from ancient Stoic philosophers and some of the modern ones as well, I've noticed substantial changes in my life. And it's not something that you don't necessarily have to make a list and start trying to to consciously apply these things to your life. The more you read about it, the more you'll notice that your own thinking sort of starts to change. It sort of rewires your internal views of yourself and the world. So, reading a few things from ancient Stoic philosophers, if you're really intent on changing your own thinking and applying that thought to your life, the changes can come pretty quick. But with that said, if you stop trying to apply those things, if you stop reading about those things and you need them, you're probably going to see yourself revert back to the same old, tired thinking that you had before. Still happens to me. If I take a few months another project with e-commerce or something like that, and I don't pay attention to catching up on philosophy, then I notice my thinking goes south as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just constant improvement. That's what we were talking
Yeah,
about earlier. Well, this is an ever what's it called? No, an infinite game. You know what I mean? The game doesn't stop playing. It's not like you win at being a Stoic philosopher. Like you're
yeah,
always
you're not just
learning
going to be.
something.
That's
Yeah.
exactly. You're not. You could read everything there is about Stoic philosophy. It won't make you some kind of a monk sitting on top of a mountain who can't be upset by anything. That will never happen. You just learn to deal with negative emotions better slowly over time, and it doesn't matter when you start. You can always improve yourself. It doesn't matter what age you are. Look, I was in my mid 40s before I even knew what philosophy was. So I'm catching up with a little bit of ground, but
Yeah.
I'll always be learning.
Hey, never late than never. Or
That's
or
right.
better late than never. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, so I want to dive into some more quotes from
sure.
the quote book. This one says Socrates realized that the definition of happiness is really quite simple. It's just the lack of desire for more. So I want to ask you, what does desire and happiness, how do they intertwine?
Yeah, that's a simple concept. You mentioned the quote from Socrates about what is happiness. It's the lack of desire for more. We consider ourselves happy when there's nothing more we want in that current moment. I'm happy right now. There's nothing more I want. We can make that choice to have everything we want if we decide that the stuff we have in our life is all that we need. Now, that's not an easy step for any of us to take, and I'm not suggesting that someone who finds themselves in bad circumstances should just say, "Well, this is as good as it's gonna get, and I should just be happy with this." But you can decide that you have enough, regardless of how. I guarantee you, regardless of how rich you or I ever get, we will never be happy if we want more. Having all the money in the world, having all the amenities in the world, having the nicest house, if in your mind you've told yourself that you need to have more of something in order to, whatever it is, make it to where you thought you should be, to be richer than the next door neighbor, to have more stuff than somebody else, you're not going to be happy. And you can make that choice that I have enough at any point in your life. And the earliest you decide that you have enough, the longer you will be happy. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep striving for more. I'm not saying that at all. But you can look around you and say, you know what? If this is all I ever have, I can still choose to be happy, but I'm going to strive for more. If I don't get more, that's fine. I still will be happy. The things I have now in my life are enough for me to have happiness. Now, me personally, I still work hard to build more, to plan the future, to, I'm going to write more books. I'm going to, always try to take care of my family and build more income. But if it doesn't happen, the things we have in our life now, it's more than enough to stay happy.
Absolutely. So how I was when I was reading this, at first I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if I necessarily agree, because that's essentially saying that if you are striving for more, then you're not happy. You know?
No,
Maybe
no,
I
just be
misinterpreted it. I don't know.
no, strive for more, but also be happy with what you have. Tell yourself that what you have is enough. Now, so in Stoicism, I don't want to get too much into the weeds about the technicalities of philosophy, but ancient Stoics said that there are things in our life that we absolutely control, and those are basically our judgments, our attitudes, and our responses. We have 100% control of that. There are things that we have a little bit of control over. Those are things like, how hard I'm going to shake somebody's hand when I first meet them, or where I'm going to drive my car during the day. Those are things we have some control over. And then most of the world is stuff that we have no control over at all. And we shouldn't foster complete indifference toward the stuff we don't have control over, but we have certain things we might prefer, and one of those things is more wealth. Okay, I would prefer to have more wealth, right? They called that a preferred indifferent. I would prefer to have more wealth, but I'm also indifferent to whether or not it happens, because I can be happy with exactly what I have. But that's a preferred indifferent, right? You prefer to have more wealth. You prefer to go on to be a more successful business owner. You would prefer that your loved ones are healthy and happy. But that's you can still be indifferent to whether it happens because you realize you have everything you need around you. Again, that's getting into the weeds with the technicalities of the philosophy, but you absolutely can prefer something happen over something else, but still be indifferent about whether or not it happens. I'm indifferent about whether or not I become a millionaire. I would prefer it if I could choose, but I'm indifferent about whether or not that happens, because I'll be happy regardless.
For sure. Absolutely. Next quote. Some of the people who you dislike probably act the way they do just to cope with hidden fears and insecurities, or because they don't know how they should act.
Yeah,
Can
that's
you
a
ex-
tough one, right?
Yep. Can you explain that a little more?
One of the things that, and this is something else that came from, again, my own notes. That's how I compiled this book. And one of the things that I had a hard time working through is understanding the actions and emotions and mindset of people who I disagreed with, or people who I thought were bad people. And something that really clicked for me, that helped me at least understand the mindset of those people, is by looking at them and myself as a child who is still learning about how we should act to certain things in the world. Think of yourself as a kid. Think of the things that were happening around you that you didn't know how you were supposed to act toward. Think about the things that scared you. And if you were anything like me when you were a child, there was a lot of stuff that scared you about the world. And some of the ways that you reacted to those things was in ways that other people would consider bad. Lashing out, or yelling, or belittling someone, or saying something because you thought it was going to be funny, but you actually hurt somebody's feelings. In all of us, there's still kind of a child present who doesn't know what the right thing is to do, and we think we are doing the right thing, or at least we hope we're doing the right thing. And I think a lot of people who we assume are doing the wrong thing on purpose, who are obnoxious or taking certain opinions to offend others, they have a lot of fear inside, and they don't know how they should be acting. They just know that by acting this way, they are getting approval from somebody, or they feel like they're part of some sort of a group, or uh, they're able to deal with their fears a little bit better, and that's why they're doing it. But looking at the world, looking at everybody, all the adults in the world, as still really having aspects of a child inside, it doesn't excuse bad behavior from other people, but it does help you understand them a little bit better and come to the realization that I did, that if you aren't going to, just like you would with your own children, if you aren't going to show them how to do it the right way, then be patient with them while they find their own way and discover what the right way is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. If you're not going to show somebody, then you just got to be patient. And
Yeah.
yeah, be patient and not try to and not harbor, ill will towards them, especially if you're not even
Don't,
going
don't be
to
patient with someone else trying to harm you, or don't be afraid to defend yourself. Again, that's not something I'm saying. But being patient with someone and at least understanding their frame of mind can help.
for sure.
I want to go. You know what I want? I'm thinking in the back of my mind more and more about this your friend getting his scooter stolen, and how many, there's like a few different Stoic lessons in that you brought up from a few different Stoic philosophers. And I still want to go back to that and talk about it, because I just think that was a terrific metaphor for a lot of what they teach in Stoicism, that you brought that up. So Epictetus was a famous Stoic philosopher. We don't have a whole lot of writing from him personally, but he had his own school of Stoic philosophy back in ancient Rome. And the ancient Romans used to send the wealthy ancient Romans used to send their sons to his school, almost like a boarding school that you would see nowadays for wealthy people. But they would send their sons to his school in Greece for a few years, and he would teach them about philosophy, and they would come back and tell other people about it and go on to be, rulers themselves and apply Stoic philosophy to their lives. The reason we know about Epictetus is because of one of his students who was named Arrian, and Arrian wrote a big volume of everything that Epictetus said and taught them, that he published and that is widely available in the world today. It's called the Discourses and the Enchiridion. You should check it out if you get a chance. But the reason I brought up Epictetus is because he taught his students a a lesson of Stoicism by talking about something he had stolen from him. He had a lamp stolen from him. Back then, have a lamp was a big deal. It was an expensive thing to have. He probably had, I don't know what it was made out of, clay or something like that. But he had this nice lamp that he liked, and someone reached into his house through a window and stole this lamp. This is such a fun story to read, because you can almost hear him telling his students this story. But he tells the students, someone stole my lamp, and this thief who stole my lamp, when he took off with it, I was upset, and I stopped and I told myself, okay, let me take a look at this emotion. Let me see what you really are. I'm upset. What am I upset about? I'm upset because I put value on the lamp, right? So can I get my lamp back? No, probably not. But I can be happy if I look at the value I put on the lamp and decide that the lamp wasn't as valuable to my happiness as I thought it was. So he decided that the remedy to him getting his lamp stolen was to just get a candle or a cheaper lamp that no one would want to steal, so that it doesn't get stolen again, and he would be happy with less than a nice lamp. Now, my point here, it's not to say that you should let people steal your stuff, right? Your friend shouldn't just say, "Oh, you stole my scooter. I'm not going to try to get it back." But it does help if you realize that all the stuff in our life, all this expensive stuff around us, Epictetus's lamp, our nice microphones that we spent money on, our computer, even our house, it's all just stuff that's made out of it's all made out of what? Cement and glass and metal and stuff that's just going to melt back into the earth someday anyway. And this stuff that really is valuable is our own attitudes, thoughts, responses, the people in our lives, our relationships with those people. So by not putting as much value on the things we have that we think we own, it makes us a lot happier, because if we lose them, if we lose our scooter, if someone steals our recording equipment, or if our house burns down, we can say, you know what, that was just stuff, and I can be happy without it. I don't want to be without a house. That's one of those preferred indifference. But a house is something that's, I mean, it's mortal. It's gonna crumble into the ground just like everything else.
One thing I've always tried to do is not put too much value on just stuff, especially because stuff, you could always get more stuff. Like if
You
I
can't. It's
break this, I could just buy a new one. iPhone gets stolen, call insurance, you could get a new, like
man,
you could
hold up your
always,
cup. Hold up your cup again. Hold up your cup again. You know what's funny?
what's
You
that?
you hold that cup up. One of Epictetus's lessons is about a cup.
Mm,
It's about probably back then it was a clay or ceramic cup, just like you're holding now. He
yep.
said if you have a cup that you like, if you if there's a cup that you really value that you think is an awesome cup, um, assume that it's going to be broken. It's going to be broken someday. Tell yourself it's just a cup. If this cup gets broken, I don't care. It's just stuff, like you said, right?
Yep.
And you
Yep.
held up a cup, but if you can have that mindset about a cup, you can also have that mindset about a house, about a nice car, about
Hmm.
anything that's physical. It's
Yeah.
it's just stuff, man.
Yeah. It's just stuff. And, you know, that's why I try, me personally, I try to value stuff like I can't get back, like my time,
Yep.
you know, like, I can never get my time back,
Yeah.
but I can always get stuff back. So that's why anytime I could trade money or whatever for buying my time back, I always do that every time.
What's one of the That's one of the greatest things about being a successful entrepreneur is the amount of time that it gives you to focus on things that are more important to you. Yeah,
Hmm.
you just hit on another thing that the ancient Stoics said. Seneca said that our most valuable thing is time, and that ironically, most people in the world, they aren't very protective of their time. Somebody stops you on the
Not
street and
at
says,
all.
"Hey, can I get 5 minutes of your time?" You say, "Yeah, no problem." But if somebody tried to steal $5 from you, you would throw a fit. When in reality, that 5 minutes of time is way more valuable than that $5 or that
Absolutely.
whatever that cup that's worth $5.
Absolutely.
You're a natural stoic, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. Still got other things I got to work on. It's an infinite game like we were talking about. But getting to the end of the interview, got last two questions, man. I want to know who your favorite Stoic philosopher is and what is one of the biggest takeaways you've had from them.
Well, I you probably want me to focus on the ancients, but there are also a lot of modern Stoic philosophers who have really changed my life for the better as well. My favorite Stoic writer, who's active today and who writes a lot of great books, is named Donald J. Robertson, and he is a cognitive behavioral therapist. He's from Scotland, and he wrote a book called How to Think Like a Stoic Emperor. It's about Marcus Aurelius, who is a famous ancient Stoic philosopher, and his writings and the meditations. But that was one of the early books I read about Stoicism. It not only introduced me to the ancient Stoics and to Marcus Aurelius, but also introduced me to Mr. Robertson and his writing. He's got a lot of great philosophy writing that is really applicable to modern living, to our lives in the modern world. And he comes across as just a really calming and inspiring presence. If you watch some of his therapy videos and some of his interviews, he has a real knack for making Stoicism really approachable to the common person. And if anyone's watching today who wants to learn more about Stoicism, I would actually start out not with the ancient Stoic stuff. Don't go grab a copy of the Enchiridion or Seneca's or Meditations, although those are great. Start out with something from a modern Stoic writer, someone like Donald J. Robertson, something like How to Think Like a, an ancient a Roman emperor. Start out with something from, say, Ryan Holiday, who's written a lot of great books on Stoicism. The Daily Stoic is a terrific book that has a little snippet for every day of the year that gives a Stoic quote and a little bit of exposition on it. Those modern Stoic writers are going to be a lot more palatable for most of modern audiences and could lead you to read more ancient philosophy as well. So check them out.
Absolutely. And that kind of bled into my second question, which was going to be any books or resources that you think for people that want to practice Stoicism.
Yep. Again, look up Donald J. Robertson. Look at his books. Look at Ryan Holiday. Look at William Irvine, who is a modern Stoic writer as well. He's a professor at a university here in Ohio. His stuff is amazing. There are a lot of modern Stoic writers who they're making it more approachable to learn about Stoicism and teaching about it in a more applicable way to our lives. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. There's nothing magical about it, but it can make a huge improvement in your life.
Absolutely. Well, Phil, it's been great talking to you, man. Love
Yeah,
talking
I've had a good time.
philosophy, stoicism. Yeah, me too. I had a great
I'm
time.
in,
Where
I'm telling you, I'm impressed. You are a natural Stoic thinker. You made a couple comments and gave me more than a few metaphors that the ancient Stoics specifically have used. So you uh, you've been a pleasure to talk to. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Can't thank I greatly appreciate it. Where can the people find you at, man?
Go to stoicsimple.com and they can find my current book and my previous books, or they can check out my books on Amazon as well.
All right, perfect. All right, y'all. Hopefully y'all learned something about stoicism today and y'all can apply this to your life. Till next time, peace.